Previously on Doctor Who Review, we hear the face of Bo say his last words. You are not alone. And you might be thinking, what does he mean by that? We find out that Mr. Saxon has information on the Doctor, and you might be wondering, how does Mr. Saxon know about the Doctor? We see Francine give the mystery woman her phone, and you might be wondering, what does Mr. Saxon want with the Doctor? When I first saw this story as a kid, I had no idea that this story would have an important part to play in the Series 3 finale. Hello everyone, Douglas here, and welcome to part 1 of my Doctor Who review, and today I will be reviewing Utopia. This story features the return of John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness, and I remember when I heard Captain Jack was coming back, I was excited. This story is the only story to be a 3-part story, and this story features the return of something shocking. Our cold open scene begins with the TARDIS landing in Cardiff. Yes, we are back in Cardiff. Inside the TARDIS, we see the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, and Martha, played by Freema Agyeman, and the Doctor tells Martha that Cardiff is built on a rift in space and time. We find out the Doctor is making a pit stop. We see someone is running. We see Martha remembers the events of Boomtown with the earthquake. A good line from the Doctor when he says, "Bit of trouble of the Slovene." We see the man that is running is Captain Jack. And Captain Jack's story takes place after the Series 1 finale of Torchwood. So, that is satisfying. We see Captain Jack wants the Doctor and he is running towards the TARDIS. We see the Doctor sees Captain Jack on the scanner and he knows his past is coming back. And we see the TARDIS takes off and we see Captain Jack jumps. We see the TARDIS console exploding. We find out from the Doctor they are accelerating. We find out the year is 100 trillion, and we find out they are going to the end of the universe. We see Captain Jack is latched onto the TARDIS. We see humanoid aliens, and they smell that humans are coming. Our opening scene begins, and we see a man running, and we see a humanoid alien, and they are after him. Inside the base, we are introduced to Professor Yana, played by Derek Jacobi, and Chanto, played by Chipo Chung. We see Yana knows that there is another human hunt on radar. We see Yana and we hear a military drumbeat. We see the radar has detected the TARDIS, and we see the TARDIS lands. Inside the TARDIS, we find out from the Doctor that no Time Lord came this far. I like the Doctor's line when he says, "We should leave. We should go." And what do? Explore! We see the Doctor and Martha step out, and Martha notices Captain Jack. I like the Doctor's line when he says, "Hello again. Oh, I'm sorry." We see Martha comes back out with a first aid kit to get Jack back to life. We find out from Martha he is dead. Or is he? We see Captain Jack gasping for air and he comes back to life. We see Captain Jack meets Martha, and this is the first time he meets the 10th Doctor. We see Jack knows the Battle of Canary Wharf, and he asks if Rose is dead, and he tells him she is not, but living in a parallel world. I like Martha's line when she says, "Good old Rose." We see the man is running from the hunt. We see Jack is talking to Martha, and I love the Doctor's line when he says this to Jack about his vortex manipulator. Oh, excuse me, that is not time travel. It's like, you've got a sports car, you've got a space hopper. A funny line from Martha when she says, "Oh, boys and their toys." We find out from Jack that he had to live the entire 20th century waiting for a version of the Doctor that would coincide with him. We also find out he went to the Time Rift and based himself there cause he knew he would come back to refuel. I like Martha's line when she says, "Do you just get bored of us one day and disappear?" The Doctor can drop you off on a whim, and Habro Holmes said that in his video of Utopia. We see the Doctor, Martha, and Jack see an abandoned city, and that looks impressive. We find out from the Doctor that everything is dying. We see Jack notices the man is running, and the Doctor knows it's a hunt. We see the trio are running, and I love Jack's line when he says, "Oh, I've missed this!" We see the trio caught up to the man, and Jack fires his gun into the air, and the humanoid aliens stop. We find out from the man they are close to the silo. We see everyone is running to the silo. We find out the humanoid aliens are called the Future Kind. And they arrive at the silo. We see one of the security guards yells to show them their teeth, and they do, and they get in. We see Yana is in his lab, and we see Yana finds out the Doctor and his friends are here, and you can tell Yana is quite excited to meet a new scientist. We see the Doctor is telling one of the guards about the TARDIS. We are introduced to Crete, played by John Bell. We see Martha asks Crete how old he is, and he says old enough to work. We see the Doctor is trying to access through a door, and we see him open the door, and on the other side is a rocket. We see Yana meets the Doctor, and you can tell he is such a likable character. We see that one of the Future Kind is among them. We see Yana is telling the Doctor about the equipment. We find out from the Doctor he has no clue. We see Martha finds out that Jack has the Doctor's spare hand from the Christmas invasion. We see Yana asks what species the Doctor is, and the Doctor says, Time Lord. We find out from Chanto that she is the last of her species. We find out from Yana that she is a Mammoth, and the planet is Makasiriel. I'm sorry, that was difficult for me to pronounce. We find out she was from the abandoned city. We find out from Yana that the Future Kind, that the human will become them unless if they reached Utopia. We also find out from Yana that the call came from across the stars over and over again. Come to Utopia. We see that Yana hears the drum beat again. We find out from the Doctor that the rocket is not going to fly. We see the Doctor work with some circuits and the power kicks in. We see the humans are preparing for boarding. We see Martha sees Crete again. We find out Crete has no family. It's just him. I like Crete's line when he says the skies were made of diamonds. We find out from the Doctor they built the system out of food and strain and staples. We find out from the gods that they found the TARDIS. I love how Yana is looking at the TARDIS and we hear the drum beat. We see the Doctor is getting extra power from the TARDIS. We see Yana tells the Doctor about the sound of drums in his head. We find out from Yana he had it all his life. We see a man goes in to get the couplings connected. We find out from Yana that the chamber is underneath the rocket, and it is flooded with STET radiation. We see the Future Kind starts interfering with the fuse box. We see the Future Kind throw something, and the fuse box explodes. We find out from Yana the chamber is going to flood. We see Attilio tells the man to get out of there but doesn't. We see the gods see the future kind and kill it. We see that Jack gets 2 cables and he is going to jumpstart the override. And we find out from the doctor that is going to start a flare. And we see Jack do it and he's dead again. Inside the chamber, the man is dead into ashes. A good line from the doctor when he says, "Strike me, Professor. You've got a room which no man can enter without dying. I think I've got just the man." And we see Jack is back to life. And a funny line from Jack when he says, "Was someone kissing me?" We see the doctor and Jack are running to the chamber. I like Jack's line when he asks this to the doctor. "How long have you known?" And the doctor replies saying, "Ever since I ran away from you." We see Jack is inside the chamber. We see Yana is looking at the TARDIS, and we hear a voice saying, "Inside the box, inside the box." We find out someone is trying to break through Yana. We see the doctor and Jack are talking about how he found out he was immortal. We find out from Jack, Earth, 1892, got in a fight on Ellis Island. A man shot him through the heart, and he woke up, thought it was kind of strange. We find out he fell off a cliff, trampled by horses, World War One, World War Two, poison starvation, a stray javelin. In the end, he got the message. He is the man who can never die. And you do find out that's why the doctor left him behind. We find out from the doctor he is a fixed point in time and space. He is a fact. We see Jack remembers when he was shot and the parting of the ways, and the doctor told him Rose was the one to bring him back to life. We find out from Jack that he went back to Rose's estate in the 90s just once or twice, and he watched her grow up, and he never said hello to her because of timelines. We see Martha and Chanto notice there is something wrong with Yana. We find out from Yana there was time travel back in the old days. We see Yana pose a pocket watch, and we see Martha's reaction to the watch. We get a flashback to human nature where the doctor is explaining the fob watch to Martha. We see Martha ask Yana where he got it from, and we find out he was found with it. We see Martha turns the other side of the watch, and we find out Yana's pocket watch is a fob watch, and he is a Time Lord. We see Martha is shocked by this, and she goes to the doctor. We see Jack got the last coupling connected, and we see Martha is running. We see Martha comes in, and we see her telling the doctor that Yana has a fob watch. And I like the doctor's reaction, and you can tell by his face that's impossible. They're all dead. We find out from Jack that the doctor might not be the last of his race. We see Martha thinks that is great, and we see the doctor yells at Martha on what did he say, and you have the feeling that it might not be good. We see Yana is looking at the watch, and we hear a laugh from Anthony Ainley. We hear a voice say, "It's the drums, the drums, the drums, the never-ending drum beat. Open me, you human fool. Open the light and summon me and receive my majesty." We hear a voice from Roger Delgado say, "Destroy him! Then you will give your power to me." Does that sound familiar? And do you know who it is? I remember when I first saw this back in 2007, and when I heard Anthony Ainley's laugh, I was like, oh, I know who it is. And I was excited about that. We find out from Jack if he escaped the Time War, then it's a perfect place to hide. The end of the universe. We see Martha remembers the face of Bo's last words. We see the rocket takes off, and Yana opens the watch. And what was the face of Bo's last words? You are not alone. Get it? Yana. I like the Doctor's reaction, and he would know which Time Lord would escape the Time War. We see Yana turns around, and the scene I like when we see his death toadstool. We see the trio run back to the control room, and Yana locks them in. I really like Yana's line when he says, "Not to worry, my dear. As one door closes, another must open." We see Yana turns the electricity off. We find out from Chantho that he lowered the defenses and the future kind will get in. We see the future kind are running inside. We see Chantho is pointing a gun at Yana and we hear, "Oh, now I can say I was provoked." And we see him grab the cable. We see the trio are running and now they are getting chased. One of my favorite scenes is when Yana is now angry and he says this, "Did you never think all those years standing beside me to ask about that watch? Never? Did you ever once think, not ever, that you could set me free?" We see Chantho is scared of him, and Yana sounds evil. "And you, with your Chan and your though driving me insane." We find out from Yana that is not his real name. We find out Yana is an invention. So perfect a disguise, he forgot who he was. And we find out who Yana really is. And we hear these words, "I am the Master." And yes, the Master is back after an 11-year absence. And the last time we saw him was in the 1996 TV movie with Paul McGann as the Doctor. And Eric Roberts was the previous incarnation. We see the Master kills Chantho. We see the Master sees the Doctor's spare hand and he takes it. We see the Doctor made it back, but he's locked out. And he's trying to warn Yana, but it's too late. I love the Master's line when he takes the card out and he says, "Utopia." We see the future kind is getting close. We see the Master is dragging the cable out and he sees Chantho and she shoots the Master. We see Jack uses his gun to smash the keypad and the door opens. We see the Doctor sees the Master and the Master gets into the Doctor's TARDIS and he locks it. We see the Doctor is begging to get in the TARDIS. We find out from Martha that Chantho is dead and Jack broke the lock. We see the Doctor tells the Master that everything changed, it's only the two of them. We hear the War Master's last lines. "Yes, thanks, Big Finish." "Killed by an insect. A girl. Inappropriate. But still, if the Doctor can be young and strong, then so can I. The Master reborn." And we see the War Master regenerates into the new Master, played by John Sim. And this is the first time we get to see the Master regenerate. We see the future kind arrived. We see the new Master wakes up, and we see him quite excited. And we hear his first words, "Now then, Doctor." Oh, new voice. "Hello, hello, hello." Anyway, why don't we stop and have a nice little chat while I tell you all my plans and you can work out a way to stop me? I don't think. We find out from Martha that she knows the voice. We see the Doctor is asking him to stop and he says, "Use my name, Master." I'm sorry. And we see the Master says, huh! And we see the Master is stealing the TARDIS. We see the Doctor pulls out the sonic screwdriver, and the console starts exploding, and everything is powering down. And we see the Master stops it, and we hear him say, "End of the universe! Have fun! Bye-bye!" We see the TARDIS takes off, and that is the end. And when I first saw this, I was like, oh man, how are they going to get out of this one? I will say, looking back on Utopia, it is great, and it is better than I remember it to be. It was great to see the Master return after 11 years away from the screen. I will say, Derek Jacobi was amazing as both Yana and the Master, and his portrayal is amazing. The first half, you see him as a sweet, innocent guy, and later he's evil. They were going to use Eric Roberts' voice for the scene with The Watch with Anthony Ainley and Roger Delgado, but Fox said no. So thanks, Fox. It was also great to see Captain Jack again, and I love Jack. Alright, so we are at the end of part 1. Click on the link for part 2.